Okay, we're at Bath, Maine, and at the Maritime Museum. Last time we were in Maine, we didn't get to get up here, so this time we wanted to take the chance, drive up to Bath and get to the museum. So, let's go.
These U-shaped sections you see right here, called the frames of the vessel. In this yard, they always erected the frames from the stern of the vessel. So what they would do is they'd lay the frame down and they'd stand it up. And they'd come forward to the next frame. Actually, they'd put it like this: stand it up, stand it up, stand it up. Okay, moving from the stern of the vessel forward on the vessel. So as the vessel's under construction, sitting on the keel blocks, it might look something like that. Okay.
Okay.
So now they need to be concerned with stability. So they set some shoring poles in the ground, kind of like telephone poles, spotted out on both sides of the vessel. And then off of those poles, they put kickers, okay, or braces, back to the frames of the vessel. And that's what stabilizes it during construction.
Okay.
Okay? Now we're going to fast forward. Okay? And we are coming up to about 3 to 4 weeks before a launch date. Remember, the bottom of the vessel is about 5 feet off the ground. So they begin constructing a cradle assembly. It looks something like this. Bottom beam, all right, the one that rides on the standing way, all right, it's called the slipper beam. All right. The upper beam, the one that holds these shaped members, would be called the cradle beam. And then between the two beams is a whole series of individual wooden wedges. And what we're trying to show you here is the head end of the wedge. If you look on this post right here, this is an actual wooden wedge. Right? They were hardwood, okay? And if you notice, the end of the wedge is painted. They would typically use 2 to 3 different colors of paint, okay, to paint the head end of the wedge. So the wedges were slid between those two beams on both sides of the cradle assembly. So let's put that in place. Let's get our vessel.
Oh, this is what we were just talking about. Yeah, the launch.
So, for those of you that had the tour this morning, you know that Percy and Small built a lot of these vessels themselves for their own use. Okay? Plus, they built for outside clients. Okay? So, Percy and Small's idea was to get this thing in the water and downriver on the next tide, start earning money for the company just as rapidly as possible. So they had found that it was most cost effective for them to finish these vessels 100% sitting on the keel blocks, right, on land, rather than bobbing in the water, okay, at the dock. Right? So all the standing and running rigging would be put in place. All the finished joinery would be done. Okay? And if indeed this boat was going out in the next tide, okay, the galley would be stopped and the crew would be quartered here locally. Okay? So that was their ideal situation. Now obviously, if they were under pressure to free up a set of ways to start construction on another vessel, they might launch it prematurely and finish the fit out at the pier. Okay? But that wasn't what they really wanted to do if they had a choice, a real choice in that. Okay? So, launch day arrives. Okay, and launch day, big day in the yard. Okay, throw the gates open. A lot of times they'd have the general public come in. They'd invite all of the investors, okay, to be on the deck of the vessel. So the investors would be there. All of the dignitaries that have been invited, maybe from town, they'd all be on the deck of the vessel. So when you look at any of the pictures, okay, in the yard here of an actual launch, you'll see that the vessel is just thronging with people. I mean, you would never take on that liability today, but back then, that's what they did. Okay, so they muster a total of 3 teams of men for each side of the vessel, and each team of men consists of 3 men. Okay? and each team of men has a sledgehammer between them. A sledgehammer with a maul. What they're going to do is they're going to start wedging the vessel up. All right, so somebody in the yard will call a cadence, like a marching cadence, and they'll begin driving these wedges in, these hardwood wedges. Okay, very labor intensive. So they would drive for 3 minutes to the cadence, then they'd rest. Teams would leapfrog, next team take over, drive for 3 minutes, rest. Next team leapfrog, drive for 3 minutes and rest. So what they're trying to do is get these cradle pieces into immediate contact with the hull. They want to get control of the hull. All right? If they didn't get it on the first pass, they drop back astern, all right, and start the process all over again. Drive, rest, okay? And when they've got this in close contact with the hull, the vessel is wedged up. And that enables them to knock out some of that temporary bracing that's still remaining along the sides of the vessel, okay? Because now the cradle assembly has control of the hull. It doesn't have any weight yet. 99% of the weight is sitting on the keel blocks, 1% on the cradle. So now they muster another small detail of men, and this is like 3 guys, okay? And these guys have axes, mauls, and splitting wedges, steel wedges. And they send them in under the stern of the vessel, right? And these guys start knocking out the keel blocks, right? Splitting them. Now remember, the keel blocks are 5 feet off ground, so they're swinging overhead like this, okay? They're under the stern of the vessel. They knock them out one at a time, all right? Moving from the stern of the vessel forward on the vessel. As they do that, there's gradually a weight transfer that takes place. And the weight transfers from the keel blocks onto the cradle assembly, okay? And when enough of that weight has transferred, the vessel should begin to move down the waves. I say should because it didn't always happen. These were uncontrolled launches. So for instance, when they launched the Wyoming, they hired a band to come play at the ceremony. The band never made it. The band was still on a trolley car between here and Bath. The boat was in the water. Then they had another launch on a particularly hot day. All the lubricant oozed out in between the slipper beam and the standing way. Right? They knocked out every single keel block under the vessel and couldn't get it moving. Right? They fired the master builder on the spot. You know, every yard had a master builder, okay, who supervised the construction and launch of the vessel. Fired him on the spot, hired another one. They worked 3 days or 2.5 days, rejacked the vessel, re-greased between the slipper beam and the standing way, put new keel blocks in. I think they got it in the water like on Monday morning. Okay? Really embarrassing. Okay? So, again, these were uncontrolled launches. A couple of other things before we launch this. They would only launch in this river at a condition called full slack tide. And that's a condition in the river where we are at maximum tide height and we have very little moving current. Okay? That condition occurs, that full slack tide occurs for about an hour at the change of tide. Okay? So they always had to hit that window. They would never launch on a running tide. Okay? Remember, we're 1890s, early 1900s, so we're in the age of steam. They would hire a tugboat to come downriver, right? And that tugboat would be positioned opposite the waves. And what it would do is guide the vessel back to the pier after it was launched. Plus, they didn't want it to hit the bank. If a tugboat was not available, they would still launch because they had to hit this 1 hour window. Okay? And what they would do is when the boat got mid-channel, they'd drop the ground tackle, the anchors, okay? And they would wait for a tugboat to become available. So how did they do with all these people that are on board? They're out there baking. Well, they had an answer for that. We were a dry state for most of the years that this yard was in its heyday. So they never swung a bottle of champagne here. But they would have a bottle of spike. They would have spike punch down below deck. Okay? And what they would do is they would rotate everybody through the lower decks to get imbibed there down there, and keep everybody happy waiting for the tug. So that's how they kind of work that. Okay. So the launch it looks something like this.
Oh, neat.
Okay.
Oh, that's
So,
Other side.
we would never take water over the stern. Okay? We have this thing, you know, I told you that you needed 2.5 to 3 degrees of pitch.
On a whalebone. All the stuff is on a whalebone. Lobster boats.
What I call a good fisherman is a man that works hard, a man that has a good boat, good equipment, he's built up a good gang of lofty gear, and has a plenty of ambition. Eugene, he's old and all.
I didn't know how many people could be on board. You got 10-foot weight here.
Hey, you kidding me? I was in the Pacific. I can handle anything. And I said, I was in the Pacific, and I can tell you right now, that is a very different water than this baby is. Your waves are irregular. They're not consistent. And they are very much closer together. And I said, this is going to be brutal. And he said, I can handle it. Well,
Okay, what is it?
That's a panache.
It was the first
It's
vessel
called the
built.
Virginia. It's called the Virginia, the first sailing or whatever ship, vessel that was built by English people on the man, and of course that's a model. I wanted to ask you questions about this. How much you might know? I see like this is. I see like a lot of machine guns. Looks like cannons, more machine guns or smaller cannons or something. More machine guns, cannons. Probably, yeah, machine guns over there. What are those long things? What are those long things? See, there's something long there. There's something long here. So I don't know. Look at that. I didn't even know we had a Navy in 1898.
No. Pegasus, go ahead slow.